I've talked a lot about the importance of breakfalling that we learn in Hapkido in many of my videos in the past, but today, real quick, I just wanted to talk more about why we learn it and why it's important even outside of the realm of Hapkido or martial arts at all. So basically, I'm just going to share a couple of short stories of how I personally learned that breakfalling is super important. So I've been practicing and learning martial arts for about 19 years now, and I know we learn the importance of things and breakfalling in particular, but sometimes those things don't register as important in our own minds until we actually have to use them. And for me, that definitely proved to be true. When I was 15 years old, I was just at school. We were out at lunch, and we were all out on the big field that we had at my high school. And I noticed this guy was running around and messing with people. He was going behind them and grabbing them and doing that, that leg sweep behind their knee and pulling them back, knocking them over. And, just thinking to myself, that's silly, whatever. And, a few minutes down the line, I feel somebody grab me from behind, and I catch myself, in the air, and I knew it was him doing this. I was actually wearing a school bag. There, that's better. So anyway, I'm, standing up, and I notice him pulling me from behind, and like I said, I catch myself in the air and register what's going on, and then before I can do anything about it, he grabs me again and pulls me a lot harder, and I topple down, and the weight of the school bag, along with me subconsciously thinking that the ground was a little wet, I was standing in some grass, my instinct was to reach my arm back and catch myself on my wrist here like this. And as soon as I did that, I heard a really loud snap, and my arm became S-shaped. Everybody started freaking out once they saw it. So I look over and I immediately know that my arm is broken, no question about it. Went to the hospital, and I had fractured both of my arm bones, my radius and my ulna, pretty badly. That's what they told me. So I had to go into surgery and get some metal plates and screws put in on each side of my arm and put back together, all because I didn't let my training kick in and know that I should have just slapped the ground and let my whole body hit at the same time to avoid that kind of injury. But I don't feel so bad about it now, because years down the road, this guy started to practice jiu-jitsu, and I believe he's an MMA fighter now. So Hayden, if you're watching this, shout out to you. But yeah, just a quick lesson that something small in my mind ended up, causing a lot different of an outcome than what would have happened if I used what I knew was right. So that all happened, and I learned my lesson, and I know that I'm not supposed to reach back and catch myself on my wrist when I fall down, right? Wrong, the story does not end there. Let's fast forward about 4.5 years. I was 19 at the time, and I was actually at the old facility that we used to teach martial arts at, setting up before the class, before we let all the students in. And actually, this cylinder that I'm sitting on, this exact piece of equipment was sitting on the ground on its side like this. And, for whatever reason, my silly brain told me I should launch off of it. So I was like a few feet back and on my way to the other side of the room, and I just thought I would run and push off and just jump for no reason. And of course, that didn't happen. As soon as my foot hit the cylinder, I kicked it out from under me and lost all my balance, and I fell back the exact same way. And I guess since I'm a lefty, my subconscious is that I would rather sacrifice my right arm, because the same exact thing happens. I fall back, and instead of doing what I know is right, I fall back on my arm, like identical to the way I did 4 years back, and heard the same snap. My arm looked like the same exact S shape, and I thought I was in a dream. And at this point, having been through it already, I wasn't really freaking out like I was the first time. Luckily both times my endorphins kicked in and I didn't feel any pain at all until, 20, 30 minutes later when I was on the way to the hospital. But anyway, I'm messing around, moving my fingers around, but I did kind of have this weird feeling. I'm like, I have metal plates in my arm. Did I just distort those? How did my arm break when it's reinforced by, titanium plates? So a lot of the same story. I went back to the hospital, the exact same doctor that had operated on me before and got my x-rays, and it turned out that, I broke my arm, the same two bones, just outside of the plate on this side on my radius and then on this side on my ulna. And it was very similar breaks. The doctor proposed that he was going to go in and remove the old plates since they were going to be in there anyway and just give me new ones at the new fracture spots. But it turned out my bone had grown over them and they just left them in place. So now I have 2 plates on one side and 2 on the other, and I think 17 screws total throughout my arm. This time I had to wear that cool removable cast that you see in my thumbnail. And it was like really a parallel story to what happened the first time. I obviously still hadn't learned my lesson. At this point I've been teaching martial arts for several years now, and teaching the importance to the students of how to fall correctly and all this stuff. And I'm obviously not applying it in my real life. Now, these 2 were definitely freak accidents, and there are several other instances in my life when I've hit the ground and I have fallen properly, and I've probably prevented some other kind of crazy injuries. But these 2 really stand out with how repetitive and eerily similar that the 2 situations were. But I feel a lot more confident now. That was almost 8 years ago. I feel like I've learned a lot since then, and I know a lot better about controlling myself. I give myself the excuse the first time of thinking about my clothes and then having the extra weight of a school bag, and then the excuse the second time of being, suspended in the air by this thing that I'm sitting on, so I'm not falling from my normal height. But those things don't matter. We still teach the same principles. You're supposed to be able to do that from different situations and different angles. But this video is just supposed to be light and just a way to look back and laugh at some of the silly things that happened. I'm still thankful that they weren't worse than what they were, and that I haven't been through more situations like that. But they were definitely learning experiences, and I have something I can take with me, and I can be very specific when I'm giving examples to people. I feel like a lot of the martial arts teachers have their own experiences to look back on that they can bring into the classroom and share with their students. And it can be personal, and it's not just, I learned this from another instructor or I read this in a book. I know why we do this, and I know why this is important. And to me, this was my 2 awakenings on why Nakbop and the specific practices that we do with our breakfalling is so important in the art of Hapkido. But it's always fun to reminisce and look back. I have lots of things I can talk about and share from my past. If that's something you'd be interested in seeing, just let me know. As always, thank you for watching, and keep training.